Hi, I'm here with Phyllis Leavitt, and you heard her in the best of part five in the beginning, America in Therapy. It's one of her books. Could you tell us a little bit about that book?
Yeah, I wrote the book. I've been a therapist for over 35 years. And at a certain point in my training and in my experience being a therapist with so many people, and so much that I learned about family dynamics and the outcomes of healthy family dynamics and the outcomes of dysfunctional or abusive family dynamics, which is a lot of what you see, of course, in your practice. Um, I just became really clear to me that those same dynamics could be a lens that we look at our country through. And how are we behaving as the family of America? What what's our history? What's our conditioning as a country? How is it influencing the ways we treat one another and people around the world today? And
Yeah.
it wasn't hard to see that a lot of the ways that we treat people here at home and around the world are very similar to what happens in highly dysfunctional families and abusive families. Certainly not
hmm
all. There are many, many wonderful people in America doing wonderful things. But there's also a lot of abuse and neglect and violence and divisiveness going on in America today. And how could we use everything we know from psychology to help us heal? Not blame, shame, or point fingers, but what could we do differently that could really bring us together in some kind of a cooperative, peaceful, open minded way, which
Yeah.
is exactly what we try to produce in our offices.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are on board with what you're saying. People want to change this world for the better.
Yeah.
They don't want to have wars and, big business run everything. We want to become more of a network community.
Yes.
This is what I preach on the show. I do what I can, but I think everyone has to step up a little bit. I think everyone has to contribute if they want to live in a better America or, also a better world. People have to step up and, it's Christmas time and, um, everyone is having a good time, but we have to think about, our future. And in 2026,
Yes.
we're at a point where we have to uh, deal with our problems. One problem I think we have is how do we deal with diversity?
Yeah.
Um, we we have a very big problem with people that have are neurodivergent. They're handicapped, and no one gives them a break.
Mm-hmm.
When I
Mm-hmm.
grew up, I never got a break. Nobody opened doors because I, I just suffered,
Yeah.
and I was humiliated by many people
Yeah.
because I couldn't think fast enough. I didn't know things. I didn't know social cues. So
Right.
I, I, I don't know. You probably run across this in your practice, but what are we doing? What can we do about things like this?
Well, I think it's a multi-pronged issue. Like, I think it's really important to address it from the individual and the individual family level. And I think it's also equally urgent that we address these problems on a community, an organizational, a business, an educational, a religious, and a political level, because family dynamics play out everywhere. And
Right.
if you, for the topic that you're bringing up, which is a real lack of understanding and compassion for neurodiversity or any of our differences, whether it's our
Right.
sexual identity or our
Right.
economic status, or our religion or our political leaning,
hmm
whatever differences we all have, color of skin, all of that, that one of the beauties of the best healing work in the world of psychology is that when someone is able to heal from their own wounding, they become much more compassionate to others, and they
Right.
become more reflective on how their own behavior is impacting not just themselves, but the people around them. And when
hmm
we have a chance to heal, we just become more loving, cooperative, open minded. and generous people who are committed to nonviolence. And so, our psychological healing as a country couldn't be more urgent, as well as on the individual level of what you're talking about. What if we could create a world where we didn't shame and blame people who are different, but we actually supported them and accepted them and supported them to be their greatest selves with
Yeah,
whoever their authentic self is.
right. And I think one of the biggest problems right now in this country is tribalism.
Mm-hmm.
We have a big problem with network news,
Mm-hmm. Right.
CNN and Fox. People listen to this, and whatever way they were leaning, it makes them lean 100 times more that way.
Right.
I have a friend I've been friends with for years, and he said he doesn't like diversity. I think he was talking about people coming in from, wherever, Mexico, or anywhere in South America. And I said, well, wait a minute, well, let's think about that. And he says, well, I gotta go. I gotta leave. And he hasn't called me since.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is everybody's tribing up. It's like either you believe this way or that way. Either you're in Trump's corner or you're in some other corner, and we can never come together because there's no such thing as compromise. I talked to my son who's also in that, I guess you could call it a Republican side. I asked him about compromise and he says, there is none. We're right. They're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's binary thinking. Binary thinking is the biggest problem we have in this country, I think. People are saying right, wrong, left, right. But the truth is, when you get to our age, I think most people discover that it isn't binary. It's just a curve where on one end are really bad people, in the middle is most people, and at the end are really good people. And that's it. There's no good and bad per se.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that have good qualities and bad qualities, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. And I don't even think, you talk about narcissists, but are they really, do they really mean to do that way? Or is it just because they were brought up in a bad environment? I know for myself, a lot of times I become controlling and anger comes out. I don't like it. After it happens, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Right.
And I think so many people have that, uh, regret in their hearts. They don't really want to be the way they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is our conditioning. And it used to be more, I think, even in my lifetime, that our conditioning came primarily from our immediate family and our immediate community. And we weren't such world citizens when I was a kid. People read the newspaper, but everything seemed very far away. And now
Mhm.
the whole world is immediate in your living room or on your phone or on your computer, and we're the role models for human behavior that we're seeing propagated on the news and social media a lot are kind of the lowest level of human functioning with each other. And it creates an environment where that is the role model. And so I think, part of what we can each do is be something different, to actually be those safe people that we want to see in the world, be those people who are open minded, who are kind, who are supportive of others, who are generous, who are committed to resolving differences without verbal, emotional, or any other physical of any kind of violence. Um,
Right,
I think we need to start from the ground up, but I think, for me, why I wrote the book American Therapy is because I want to advocate that from the top down as well, because what we create as a political, social, cultural climate influences people and affects them very, very deeply. And I know today a
yeah,
lot of people feel somewhat hopeless because they feel like they can't counteract those enormous influences. And I really believe that we just stay in our own lane and we do what we came here to do, whether it's hosting a podcast where you bring on different voices, or you write a book like me, or you make beautiful music, or you become a different parent, or you are a different voice within your school or your church, or you treat your employees differently. We can each make a difference. And I think that's
Yeah,
actually where the hope lies.
yeah, and it's the opportunity now to take away the boring tasks, the road, the the assembly line, for instance, everything being taken over by AI. Now,
Uh huh.
that could be good, it could be bad, but if we make it good, it could be very good. For instance, I was writing up the notes for this best of program, and I had AI do it for me. I just said, "Here's the description of the episode. Give me a synopsis." And there you go. I saved hours of work. And
Right.
those rote tasks that, people used to do, we don't have to work at jobs that are so boring, that are so, not who we are. Because, I did that for years. I worked at a job for 40 years and it wasn't who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I masked the whole time. And I think if, if you don't have the ability to mask who you are,
Yeah.
and you go into like a business world and you just act like who you are, like maybe you're a little, uh, not politically correct, for instance, then you're finished right now. You have to act like everyone else, or else you will be picked on or chastised, or it's really come to a point where if you're not totally politically correct, you're in trouble at work and other places.
Right. And my theme is that that's a mental health issue. It's a mental health issue that we can't make place for another point of view peacefully. We don't have to agree with each other. We won't always agree with each other, but we don't have to attack. We don't have to shame. We don't have to humiliate or fire at people who have a different point of view. And it's a mental health issue that we feel entitled to do that, or that we're seeing role models of doing that, because mentally healthy people don't work out conflict that way. Mentally healthy people want to sit down and find some common ground, or a compromise, or grow their understanding of something that they didn't know before. Or in, worst case scenario where you really can't come together with somebody else, that you learn how to leave them alone in peace, and not have to destroy them because you don't agree with them. And so
Yeah,
I think these are really mental health issues that we're being conditioned to believe are ideological and partisan issues, when actually they're issues about healthy or unhealthy human behavior.
right. So when you go into a job, you could actually be who you are. That's
Hmm.
the important thing.
Yes, yes,
Because for 40 years I was miserable because I couldn't be who I was.
yeah,
I couldn't. And a lot of people, I interviewed a person who was homeless for a while, and he said, "Bob, look, they expect you to be like this template they put out. And if you're not exactly like that in all aspects of life, because he had children that, he was estranged with because he didn't act the way you're supposed to act. And I had a similar problem with my daughter. If you do not act the way people want you to act, they will just get rid of you in today's world. That's
hmm
what's happening.
hmm
Older people are being abandoned because they're
yeah,
not useful.
yeah.
They're not useful anymore. They throw them away. I don't know why that's happening, but I believe it is a problem. And, and I don't know what can be done about that.
Well, I think I think these are all part of our mental decline in our mental health, that we don't have this growing compassion and ability to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, or even the desire to do that. And I think it's part of emotional growth and development that you come out of yourself, and when you're a little toddler, you're appropriately narcissistic. You have that,
Yeah.
it's all about you. But part of growing
Mhm.
up and maturing is that it's not all about you, and you really learn
Mhm.
how to function with other people. But unfortunately, that isn't a lot of what the role models are in our country today. And I think
No.
in many places around the world where it's me first and I got to get mine, and whatever happens to you along the way maybe doesn't matter. And so I think we live in a very self-centered culture in many ways. But I really want to keep saying many people are not like that. There are wonderful people in this country doing amazing things, but they're not necessarily at the top of the news feed or the social media feed. And so their contributions are not necessarily part of the role model that especially young people are seeing. um, we just live in a very like, how do I appear? And you talked about not being able to be yourself. And I think that is where some of the growth and development for our country needs to lie, because who people are in their essential self is actually the heart of their greatest contribution to themselves and others.
Yeah.
And when we put
And,
people in a box and demand that they look a certain way, act a certain way, have a certain profession, a certain income, whatever, we're depriving ourselves of the beauty of our diverse contributions.
yeah. And all these people that are talented, but they
Yeah,
can't communicate how much talent they have, all of that's being wasted.
yeah, I
Um,
agree. I agree.
so there's so much talent that could be utilized, but nobody can recognize, people can't recognize that.
Right.
And like role models, I mean, just look at the president. Is he a role model? I don't see it. Uh,
No, I think we
uh,
have to look in other places, and I think there are other places, and I think we have to promote them ourselves. Programs for children, the arts, farming, organic farming, or making a garden on the rooftop of an inner city building. There are so many
mhm,
people using their creativity to help others, and I think we have to keep focusing on that
yeah,
as well as be informed about the things that we need to stand up to. And I think that's
yeah,
part of the balance that we face today in our own personal mental health, because it's
yeah.
really important not to feel helpless in the face of the things that you're talking about that aren't good for
Right.
people, the
It
discrimination.
happens to me. I mean, at some point I go, well, is this just survival of the fittest? And is that what it's all about? I get discouraged. I see people just stepping on each other, being mean to each other, and I get very discouraged. And
Yeah,
I think other people do too. I, I mean, we've gotten to a point where we don't have to do that. We have a choice.
right,
And the choice is we can have a democratic, uh, beautiful community or communities of love and all that.
right,
I mean, you're not going to take away natural disasters, okay? But that should be the only thing that causes problems. It shouldn't be because people lock you up because you have ADHD. I mean,
right,
it
right.
shouldn't be that they arrest you for drugs if you're on the street, but if you're in, a rich family, you can take as many drugs as you want. All of these things have to be addressed.
Yeah,
And we do have a long way to go before I think we can say that our society is is healed, is doing better.
right. And I think the fact that we have a long way to go, which is pretty obvious from many of the things that are going on that are very, very harmful to people and causing a great deal of suffering. I think the thing to make of that is, okay, let that be my motivation rather than to do my part, whatever, however big or small it is. Let that be my motivation to make a contribution rather than let that be something that causes me to be hopeless. Um,
Right. We got to keep up the hope. I mean, this is one reason I have this Christmas special
yeah,
marathon, whatever.
yeah,
I want to reach people that are alone today. I want to reach people that don't have anyone.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I want to tell them that they're not alone, that we're with them and they don't have to be alone anymore.
yeah,
Uh, there's a better way. You can join a group. You can, get a therapist. Even if you don't have money, you can get a therapist
hmm
and you can help yourself. And that's the message from here that I'm trying to get out.
And that's a great message.
Unfortunately,
That's a great
yeah,
message.
a lot of people are busy on Christmas. Nobody's listening, but you know what? It goes out.
Right.
I
Right.
got a lot of traffic later on after,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the show itself came out and a lot of people listened. So hopefully I'm getting the word out. I really appreciate you coming on. Uh, it's hard to get people around Christmas and you came right on. I appreciate that. Um, is your latest book still America in Therapy, or do you have other
That is my
things
latest
in
book,
it?
and I'm
Okay.
I'm in the planning stages for a next book, but it's pretty early for that process right now.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But you put out a very good newsletter, which I look forward to reading. And
Oh, thank you.
is there anything else you'd like to mention?
No, I just really appreciate you having me on your show. This is what I'm passionate about, and I love every opportunity to share where hope can be found, and how we can look at what's wrong through a lens of wanting to heal it rather than wanting to blame each other. And so,
That's terrific.
that's really what I appreciate you having me on to just share that again. Thank you.
Okay, and have a great holiday season. And you know, uh, I'll wait for your next newsletter.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
You take care.
All right.
All right.
Take care. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.